Morning. So as we putting 1.6 our syllabus this is the part 1.6 phylogenetic status, characteristics, and the geographical distribution of the following. So মানে গোটেইখিনি following বুলি কৈছে following কি কি দিছে Australopithecines, Homo erectus, Neanderthals, Rhodesian man and Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens er তিনটা ভাগ আছে আকৌ তো আজি আমি পঢ়িম Australopithecines ইয়াত চাবলৈ কি লাগিব আমি phylogenetic status, characteristics and geographical distribution মানে evolution যোনটো ব্ৰাঞ্চটো হয় তাত জেগাটো কি পজিশনটো কি চাব লাগিব আমি আৰু হেতৰ ফিজিক্যাল ফিচাৰ্স বুক কি ফৰ এক্সাম্পল অস্ট্ৰোপিথেচানৰ দেখাত কেনেকুৱা ফিজিক্যাল প্ৰপাৰ্টি ফিজিক্যাল ক্যাৰেক্টাৰিষ্টিক্স বুক কি আৰু ক'ত পোৱা যায় জিওগ্ৰাফিকেল ডিস্ট্ৰিবিউশন এই গোটেইখিনি চাম গোটেইখিনি অস্ট্ৰোপিথেচানৰ পৰা ষ্টাৰ্ট কৰিলে হোমো ইৰেক্টাছ নিয়াণ্ডাৰথেল ম্যান ৰডেছিয়ান এণ্ড হোমো চেপিয়েন্সৰ বিষয়ে তো সেইটো আমাৰ হৈ গ'লে সিলেবাসৰ পাৰ্ট 2 আৰু মোস্ট ইম্পৰ্টেন্ট মানে যে চাব যাওঁ আমি Australopithecines बहुत important है along with that Homo erectus. Homo erectus बहुत बेस important. Then Neanderthal man. Then Homo sapiens. Rhodesian man तो नहीं होता है, rarely होता है. थोड़ा chapter है वाला. So के basic का बोला तो Homo erectus तो होगा. यहाँ पर क्वेश्चन प्राय भाग है यूपीएससी. इतने हम start करूँ. Phylogenetic status, characteristics and distribution of following features. इधर स्वामी कहना है कौन पसंद है characterize कोई चीज़ है বা phylogenetic relationship বিচাৰিছো আমি একচুয়ালি কি ডিসকভাৰ কৰিছো আফ্ৰিকাত অল্ডোভাই গৰ্জ আছে আৰু ইষ্ট আফ্ৰিকান যিটো ৰিফ্ট ভ্যালি সেইবোৰ জায়গাত আমি বহুতখিনি এৰিনা ফসিলবোৰ ডিসকভাৰ কৰিছো এৰিনা ফসিলবোৰ আমি পাইছো বহুত ধৰণৰ পাইছো এইটো কথা এই পেলভিক বনটো হৈ গ'ল হইলো এইটো তোমাৰ স্কাল পাৰ্টটো হৈ গ'ল মানে সৰু সৰু টুকুৰাটুকুৰকে আমি বহুতখিনি পাইছো আৰু এইটা আমি যেটা ৰিএৰেঞ্জ কৰোঁ যেতিয়া with the help of computer simulation use paper যেটা আমি এটো রিঅ্যারেঞ্জ করুম এটা আমি কি এটা ওভারঅল এটা বডি বনাব পাৰো এই ওভারঅল বডিটো বনাই মেলি মডিফাই কৰি মেলি যেটা বনাইছো আমি এটো বেসিসতে আমি মানে ক্যাৰেক্টাৰ বুলি লিখিছো আমি ওভারঅল গুটেই কমপ্লিট মানুহ এটা বা জকাটা বনাই কাৰণ বহুত দিনৰ হয় এটো আজিৰ নহয় 4 মিলিয়ন ইয়ার্স এগো মানে 40 লাখ বছৰ মান আগৰ কথা তো এটা জকাটো নাপাও আমি এটা টুকুৰা টুকুৰা পাইছো So based on this, first we have found the Australopithecines, Pleistocene hominid. बहुत पुराना মানে Pleistocene মানে Pleistocene যোনটো টাইম পিরিয়ড হয় যোনটো আইস এজ হয় যেটা আমি মানে কি আমাৰ হোমো ইৰেক্টাছ এগুলো আছিল তাৰো আগত হয়তো Pleistocene বুলি কওঁ in South and East Africa আইস এজৰ আগে আগে যেটা আমি মানে কি সাউথ আৰু ইষ্ট আফ্ৰিকান কিছুমান ফসিলস পাইছো এই ধৰণৰ এই ফসিলবোৰ আমি যেটা পাইছো যেটা আমি কি ডিসকভাৰ কৰিলো যে অস্ট্রোপিথেসাইন্স নাম দিছো অস্ট্রোপিথেসাইন্স ইয়াৰ বিষয়ে পঢ়িম আৰু বেছিকৈ ইয়াৰ আগতে মানে কি আছে কিছুমান ফসিল আছিল প্ৰাইমেট ফসিলস বুলি কয় সেইটো তোমালোকক নুহুদে কাৰণে এক্সামত মই পঢ়া নাই তোমালোকক সেইটো এই যদি আমি ফসিলবোৰ যেটা পঢ়ো যদি আমি এটা পাওঁ ৰামাপিথেকাছ বুলি কওঁ আমি ৰামাপিথেকাছ তোমালোকক পঢ়াম সেকেন্ড পেপাৰত পঢ়াম ৰামাপিথেকাছ যোনটো হয় Australopithecus পাছত আহে Australopithecines মানে কি লাষ্ট স্টেজত যেটা হয় আমাৰ প্ৰাইমেট বোৰ যেটা ইভলভ হৈ প্ৰাইমেট বোৰ আমি কৈছিলো যোৱা চেপ্টাৰ লাষ্ট চেপ্টাৰ 1.5 তো তাৰ Australopithecus বোৰ ইভলভ হৈ পাছত আহিব Australopithecines তো Australopithecus যেটা আছিল যেটা শেষ হৈ গ'ল Australopithecus there was almost 4 million years of gap after Australopithecus Australopithecus মানে কি হয় এটা এপ হৈ ধৰিলো তুমি এটা এপৰ ধৰণৰ আসলে Australopithecus বহুত দিনলৈকে আছিল তাৰপিছত কি হল গ্যাপ এটা আহিলে around 4 মিলিয়ন ইয়ার্স গ্যাপ এটা আহিলে তাৰপিছত আমি কি পালো কি ডিসকভাৰ কৰিলো কিছুমান ফসিলস ডিসকভাৰ কৰিলো যেটা আমি ৰেডিও কাৰ্বন ডেটিং এইবোৰ কৰিছো আমি নাইট্ৰজেন এইবোৰ কৰিছো আমি পটাছিয়াম আৰ্গন ডেটিং কৰিছো আমি এবাৰ ৰেডিও কাৰ্বন নহয় পটাছিয়াম কাৰ্বন ডেটিং কৰিব লাগিব কাৰণ বহুত পুৰণা হয় কাৰণে নিউ হোমিনিড ফৰ্মছ অফ ফসিলস পোৱা গৈছে নিউ হোমিনিড মানে কি আমাৰ মানুহৰ লগত মিলিছে নিউ হোমিনিড ফৰ্ম অফ ফসিল পোৱা গৈছে and it shows the continuation of the hominid evolutionary trends. যেটা আমি নিউ হোমিনিড পাইছো জকাবোৰ পাইছো যে আমি জকা নহয় মানে কেৱল স্কালবোৰ পাইছো যে তো ইয়াৰ কিছুমান বস্তু মানে ফিচাৰবোৰ আমাৰ লগত মিলিছে হিউম্যানছৰ লগত প্ৰেজেন্ট টাইম হিউম্যানছৰ লগত মিলিছে so it shows the continuation of the hominid evolutionary trends মানে কি হাতি আমাৰ লগত কানেক্টেড হৈছে in the phylogenetic tree সেইটো বুজাইছে when we try to make the whole animal with the help of these skulls and hip bones, teeth, all these things. What we have found that these animals or the Australopithecines, they were partially erect, bipedal with reduced knobs and expanded brain case. So these are the things we have found that these animals, Australopithecines, they were partially erect. Partially erect মানে completely থিয় হ'ব পৰা নাই কিন্তু থিয় হৈ আছিলে আমাৰ মানে একেবাৰে straight নহয় homo erectus হোৱাৰ পাছত আমি straight হ'ব পাৰোঁ erectus meaning is straight তো homo erectus পাছত আমি ডাইৰেক্টলি থিয় হ'ব পাৰিছোঁ straight একেবাৰে কিন্তু তাৰ আগতে যোনটো আহিছিলে partially erect partially বুলি ক'লে ৰহাটো দেখাম ডাইগ্ৰামত এই ধৰণৰ থিয় আছিলে এইটো Australopithecines partially erect বুলি কওঁ আমি অকমান আগফালে ভাঁজ হৈ থকা so what we have discovered that they were partially erect bipedal with reduced knobs bipedal মানে কি খোজটো দুটা ভৰিতে খাইছিলে দুটা ভৰি ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিছিলে খোজ কাঢ়িবৰ কাৰণে and they had reduced snout মানে কি মুখখন যেটা ওলাই থাকে যে সেইটো কমি আহিছিল সেইবোৰ আৰু হৈ গ'ল along with the expanded brain brain যোনটো এৰিয়াটো সেইটো বাঢ়ি আহিছে ভিতৰত মানে মগজ থকা জায়গাটো বাঢ়ি আহিছে তো এইবোৰ কি বুজায় এইবোৰ বুজায় যে সেইটো মানুহৰ লাইনতে আছে বোলে মানে হেতৰ পৰা মানুহ এভলিউশন হৈছে বুলি বুজায় and no other apps other than Australopithecines has shown any features like this Australopithecines they have shown the features like partially erect posture then bipedal with reduced snouts and expanded brain case so it shows that they are the continuation of hominid evolutionary trend now when they have emerged and where they have emerged in the rolling savannas of eastern and south Africa এই জায়গাবোৰ ধ্যান দিবা আমি সাম এটা জায়গাবোৰ সাম আমি এই নামবোৰ মনত ৰাখিব লাগিব eastern and south Africa পাইছো Yes, এইবোৰ কোৱেশ্চন সুধিছে ডাইৰেক্ট সুধিছে ক'ত পাই বুলি 2016 চনত যেতিয়া এন্থ্ৰোপলজি অপচনেল লিখা আছিল তেতিয়া এইবোৰ সুধিছে So rolling savanna এটা গ্ৰাছল্যান্ড আমি জানো savanna গ্ৰাছল্যান্ড ক'ত আছে আমি নরমালি আফ্রিকাত বেছিকৈ পাম তো এটা আফ্রিকা যোনটো savanna গ্ৰাছল্যান্ড হয় that eastern and southern part of Africa around 5 to 6 million years ago. Yes, around this time, 5 to 6 million years ago. I'm actually discovered also about fossils were. That's around 4 million years ago to important person. Beginning of 5 to 6 million years ago, basically. Beginning of person. So 5 to 6 million years means 50 to 60 lakh years ago. And when we have arranged all the fossils of Australopithecines, what we have found, they have a remarkable range of physical variations. Size and shape position. And we have found body size, variations in body size, facial shape, and brain size. Since the sizes were of different and there are variations, what we can say that there were sexual dimorphism and localized adaptations. Sexual dimorphism means differences between male and female. And the localized adaptations. In different locations, they might have adapted differently, and because of that, they have physical variations. So these are the regions how you can find variations in their body and size. Overall, all the Australopithecines we have classified in two major groups. Yes, Australopithecines, দুটা major group ভাগ কৰিছো. Most of them Australopithecines, their skull either look like this or it look like this. The fossils that we have discovered from this Africa in the Oldowan Gorge, all these areas, then again East African Valley. So all the skulls either we can classify into this category or into this category. And if the skulls they fall under this category, we call them robust form. And if the skull they fall under this category, we call them gracile form. And we humans are actually continuation of this gracile form. They are the ancestors, our actual ancestors, gracile forms, not the robust form. So overall, whatever Australopithecines we have discovered, we can classify them into robust forms and gracile forms or standard form. So the robust form, these are the skulls of robust form. They do not represent the main line of hominid evolution. So we do not represent this robust form. Why they do not represent, we'll see after some time. And gracile form or the slender form, they actually continue the hominid evolution. So what we have understood overall in all the Australopithecines that we have discovered, we can classify them into two groups. One is robustus form, one is gracile form. And we humans are the continuation from the gracile forms, not the robustus forms. So the robustus form will evolve separately, and the time will come that they will extinct. Even the gracile will also get extinct, but at some point of time they will be evolved into Homo habilis, then to Homo erectus. Now, based on again these features, these physical features, we can classify them into two genera. One is Australopithecus, one is Paranthropus. Genera means overall body features. If there are similarities in overall body features, we classify them into genera. So there are total two genera. One is Australopithecus, that is the standard form, or you can say gracile form. So the gracile form is known as Australopithecus now. The gracile forms or the slender forms will be known as Australopithecus, and robustus form will be known as Paranthropus, the genera Paranthropus. And again, within the genera, we have discovered many species, many related species. And at present also we are discovering every year we keep getting some new species. But again, it takes time to do some research on them, and again to discuss whether to put them within Australopithecus or not, all these things. So this process of discovering will keep on going. So at present, we have these species within Australopithecus. We call them Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus afarensis, Australopithecus remedius, and Australopithecus anamensis. Along with that, we have many other species that belong to Australopithecus, but they are the most well-established Australopithecus species, and they are standard forms. These are the standard forms or gracile forms also, and they are Australopithecus. The another genera is Paranthropus. There are mainly two species within Paranthropus, and they are Paranthropus robustus and Paranthropus boisei. So P. robustus and P. boisei are the two species that is found there in the Paranthropus, or you can say in the robust form. Now the important part is geographical distribution. So this is the most tricky part because you have to remember the name of these places. What you have to do, you have to write down while studying. You have to write down all the names, and if possible, you can stick the names on the walls also, because you cannot do anything about this. There is no any concept, but you have to remember the name, and the names are very much different because they are African names. Now you have to see how they are distributed. In what are the areas actually you have found these fossils. First, in South Africa, we'll look in South Africa. Within South Africa, we have discovered Africanus, Australopithecus africanus, in the areas of Town in Cape Province. Cape Province in South Africa only. And you have to remember each and every name, and you have to write the spelling properly. So Africanus was discovered in Town in Cape Province, then again in Starkfontein, Transvaal, then again Magapansgat, Transvaal. So these are the areas in South Africa where we have discovered Africanus. Town in Cape Province, Starkfontein, Transvaal, Makapansgat, Transvaal. Then next in South Africa again we have discovered robustus form. P. robustus, Kromdraai, Transvaal, Swartkrans, Transvaal. Then we'll talk about East Africa. In East Africa, we have discovered Ramidus, Ramidus, Africanus, Australopithecus ramidus. And in Ethiopia, the place called Aramis, we have discovered this in Aramis. Then again, Anamensis, Australopithecus anamensis. This we have discovered in Kenya. There is a place called Kanapoi. Then P. boisei. Again, these are the fossils we are discovering in East Africa. P. boisei, we have discovered them in Tanzania. Tanzania, there is a place called Garusi where Olduvai gorge is present. There we have discovered P. boisei. Again in Kenya, in Lake Turkana. In Lake Turkana, we have discovered P. boisei. P. robustus, we have discovered in Lake Omo, Ethiopia. We have P. robustus. So these are the geographical regions. You can find these things in Braintree also. You have to read this part from the PDF, and if you want to remember or if you want to refer any other book, then you can go to Braintree also. But in Vivek they have given Vivek is not properly given, so you do not have to refer Vivek. You can refer this PDF along with Braintree notes. So these are the reasons, mostly all the way gorge, start fountain, swart crams, prom dry, tong, and South Africa, Lake Turkana, Lake Omo, Kenya. So these are the places where we have discovered them. Now we're going to talk about the general characteristics. We're going to see the physical features, how they are connected with us. Means what are the characteristics or what are the physical features that help us to connect us with them? How we can connect human beings or Homo sapiens, modern Homo sapiens, with the Australopithecines. See, Australopithecus, they had a well-developed forehead. After doing research on their skull, what we have discovered that they have a very well-developed forehead. A well-developed forehead means we also, human beings also has a well-developed forehead. So it shows that we have well-developed forehead means the frontal part of the brain will be developed, properly developed. And the frontal part is very much important for all the activities, most of the activities, like analytical abilities, all these things. Now, well-developed forehead, it suggests expansion of the frontal lobes of the brain. So since the Australopithecus has a well-developed forehead like us, so we can assume that they are the hominid ancestors. Next is they have weakly developed supraorbital ridge. Supraorbital ridge. Supraorbital ridge means this portion. We have been talking about this thing, supraorbital ridge in the 1.5 also. This is the part. Supraorbital ridge. They have a supraorbital ridge, but it is weak compared to the other primates or apes. And this portion is called sagittal crest. Sagittal crest. This supraorbital ridge, and this is the sagittal crest. If they have a sagittal crest, means they'll be having more muscles in their face, more strong, huge jaw muscles. Because this sagittal crest will be used for the attachment of the muscles. And this is the supraorbital ridge. And what they have mentioned here is that their supraorbital ridge that is diminished, weakly developed or diminished supraorbital ridge. So again, they connect us with the Australopithecus. Elevated cranial vault. Cranial vault is elevated. Elevated means you can have this part. See, elevated মানে এটা উঠি আছে তো ওপৰফালে যোনটো মগজটো হয় মগজটা ওপৰত থাকে এইটো মানে কি আমি কি ৰুফ বুলি কওঁ ৰুফটো যোনটো আমাৰ স্কালাৰ সেইটো অলপ ওপৰলে আছে তলত নাই মানে তলফাল নহয় এটা আমি বলি এইটো কৈছো অস্ট্ৰোপেথেকাস মানে এইটো বৰ অৱস্থা অলপ পাছত চাম আমি তো অস্ট্ৰোপেথেকাস কি বস্তু ওপৰলৈকে আছে বহুত মগজটো মানে কি ওপৰত আছে একদম ফেচৰ লেভেলত নাই দিয়া দিছ ইজ দ্য ফেচ and this is the skull where the brain is placed. So it is high vault. We call it high vault. Normally in gorilla, what we have seen in gorilla, it is low vault. Low vault means mogos to FLS in the back side. The brain was present or the skull was present in the back side. That is called low vault. And if the brain and the skull is present in the upper part of face, then we call it high vault. So estimated cranial vault, elevated cranial vault, and the cranial capacity was approximately 450 to 600 cc. So the cranial capacity was approximately 450 to 600 cc. So all these things you have to remember. Then compared to body size, it is slightly larger brain. And when you compare the overall brain, the overall body and brain size or the ratio, what we can find that the brain size is little bit larger compared to the body part. So again, in human being also, we can find the brain to body ratio is high. So again, they're connecting, they are getting connected with human beings, Australopithecus. Now, if we talk about the skull is well balanced. The skull is well balanced. That's why they can stand up in semi-erect posture. To stand up like this, the skull need to be well balanced. And how it will be well balanced with the foramen magnum. It depends on the foramen magnum. We have talked about foramen magnum in the previous classes. It depends on the position of the foramen magnum. What is foramen magnum? It is the hole through which the brain is connected with the spinal cord. And the position of the foramen magnum, it decides whether the animal can stand up in erect posture or not. So the foramen magnum in case of human being, it is exactly the base of the skull in case of human beings. And in case of quadrupedal organisms, living quadrupedal animals like dogs or buffalo, all those animals, you can find the foramen magnum at the very back side. The very back side. And in gorilla, chimpanzee, at this position, you can find foramen magnum. And here, the Australopithecus, you can find at this position. Not exactly at the base of the skull, but nearby the base of the skull. That's why they could stand in a semi-erect posture. This is the foramen magnum. The foramen magnum plays slightly forward compared to all other apes, and they partially indicate erect posture. So the lower jaw, we can find the lower jaw is extremely proganthous and relatively large jaw. So proganthous মানে ওলাই অহা মুখখন যেটা ওলাই অহা মুখখন proganthous বুলি কওঁ. So here again you can see ওলাই আহিছে like an apodor proganthous, extremely proganthous, the lower jaw. মানে ওলাই আহিছে মুখখন বাহিৰৰ ফালে. এটা মানে অকণ কম মিলিছে বাৰু. Extremely proganthous and it is very large. If you talk about a dentition pattern, it is parabolic, means the dental pattern of Australopithecus, it is same as hominid dentition. In hominid dentition, we have seen yesterday, they look like parabolic, not U-shaped like this, parabolic. And here in Australopithecus also, the dental pattern, they are parabolic arcade. We call it arcade, parabolic arcade. No sagittal crest. In case of Australopithecus, we have found no sagittal crest. But in Robustus, there was sagittal crest. So since there is no sagittal crest, what is sagittal crest? This one. This bone is called sagittal crest. This bone. In Robustus, they had sagittal crest, but in case of Australopithecus, there was no sagittal crest. No absence of sagittal crest shows that there will be weak temporal muscles. There will be weak muscles in the jawline or all the overall face. Muscle, the amount of muscle will be less. In human being also, we can see since there is no sagittal crest in human beings, the amount of muscle is less in the face because there is no sagittal crest. So again, this feature also you can match with human beings. There is no sagittal crest in the Australopithecus. It shows weak temporal muscles. And the postcranial skeleton. Postcranial skeleton means all the body, all the bones other than the skull. The bones in your body other than the skull, we call it postcranial skeleton. For example, our vertebrae, then again, we can say our vertebral column, our limb bones, then again, ribs, all these bones are called postcranial skeleton. And when you try to compare the postcranial skeleton of Australopithecus with humans, we have found many similarities. For example, the ilium of pelvis is broad and short. Ilium bone. I don't know whether it is there or not. See, ilium bone, suppose if it is the hip bone, suppose it's the hip bone. It's the hip bone. This part is called ilium. This part is called ilium. This is the pelvic bone overall or hip bone, and this upper part is called ilium. So the ilium of the pelvis is broad, it is broad and short. It shows bipedalism. This portion is broad and short. So in yesterday class, we have talked about the overall the pelvic bone. In human beings, overall the pelvic bone it is short and broad because we have to take the body weight from starting from skull to the trunk, the upper part of the body. All the weight passes to the pelvic part, the hip bone. That's why our hip bone is short and broad. In the same manner, we have also discovered among the Australopithecus, the ilium, the upper part of it, talking about the upper part of pelvis, is broad and short. So it also shows bipedalism nature. They might be walking on the two legs. That's why they are giving pressure or force on these bones. So it got broad and short, and they were probably better runner than walker. These are the things they have discovered. As anthropologists, they have discovered that they are probably better runner than walker. And if you talk about the toe, non-divergent, they have a non-divergent big toe like us. In the feet, we have big toe, right? And they also, our big toe is non-divergent. Means it is not separate from the other toes. It is called divergent big toe. It is called divergent. The apes have divergent big toe, but in case of human, we have non-divergent big toe. And our nostril also have discovered non-divergent big toe. Next, Paranthropus. Paranthropus is the robustest form, and they do not represent the hominid evolution. They do not represent us, Paranthropus. The skull is larger than Australopithecus, little bit larger than Australopithecus, because the cranial capacity is almost same. The skull is large, but the volume, the space is almost same for the brain. That is around 450 to 600 cc. And if you talk about the body size to brain ratio, it is low. The brain to body ratio is low. It should be brain size to body ratio. Brain size to body ratio, it is low. And a large supraorbital ridge. They have a large supraorbital ridge above the eyes, which have conspicuous forehead. Cranial vault is low placed and not expanded. You can see here in the diagram or in the picture, you can find here that the cranial vault is low, not very high like the Australopithecus. Low. They have a supraorbital ridge, strong supraorbital ridge along with sagittal crest. Low placed and not expanded. The brain is not expanded. The cranial part is not expanded. Moderately developed sagittal crest. Presence of sagittal crest, it shows that they have a strong facial muscles. Massive jaws with moderate prognathism. Foramen magnum slightly forwardly placed. So they could also stand up and they could also walk in semi-erect posture because foramen magnum was slightly forwardly placed. The parabolic dental arcade, the parabolic dental arcade means the dental arcade was parabolic only, but it was slightly more U-shaped. The dental arcade, it looked like parabolic only, but it was coming towards more, slightly towards more U-shaped. And where you can find U-shaped dental arcade in the apes. Among the apes only you can find this dental arcade of U-shaped. So you can say that the robustness, it comes in between in the dental pattern, it comes between the hominid and apes. So they show parabolic dental arcade also, but slightly they have more tendency towards the U shape that is shown by apes. If you talk about the postcranial skeleton, other than the skull, the skeleton part other than the skull, this shows mixture of gorilloid and hominoid traits. মানে body যদি বাকি part বোৰ চাওঁ আমি other than the skull, আমি কি পাওঁ mixture of gorilla আৰু মানুহৰ যোনটো trait বোৰ হয় তাৰ mixture পাওঁ। Another feature is divergent big toe. That also divergent was a big toe. Like app was a divergent was a big toe যেনেকৈ separate হৈ থাকে সেইটো বেলেগ আছে তেনেকা। তো সেইটো কাৰণে আমাৰ পৰা দূৰত যায় অলপ। Now let's talk about the phylogenetic implications, how they are connected with us. There is no unanimous opinion on the Australopithecines taxonomy. And there are different types of anthropologists, archaeologists. They are doing research on them, and all of them are giving different viewpoints. So it has become difficult to come to a unanimous opinion. What is the position about the position of the Australopithecines? But all agree that about 5 million years ago there was a single line of Australopithecines in Africa. All of them, they agree that there is Australopithecines in Africa. There are two theories we'll get. One is two-branch theory, one is three-branch theory. The two-branch theory regarding the phylogenetic positions. Two-branch theory, it is given by Donald C. Johnson and Timothy White. According to this two-branch theory, It is the afferences, from afferences, Australopithecus afferences, two line has formed. From one line, the Australopithecus afferences got evolved into two lines. In one line, they got evolved into Australopithecus africanus, P. robustus, and P. boycei. And another line, according to this theory, two branch theory, another line got evolved into Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and Homo sapiens. So this is called two branch theory. In the Vivek Bhasni book, they have confused it. They have given a lot of things. Don't refer to Vivek Bhasni for this chapter. You can study this chapter from this PDF only along with brain tree. In brain tree, you'll find this two branch theory where afferences will be evolved, or it got evolved into Africanus, Robustus, and Boise. And afferences again got evolved into Hobilis, erectus, and sapiens. This is called two branch theory given by Johnson and Timothy White. So again, in the recently 1995, Australopithecus Ethiopicus was discovered. Australopithecus Ethiopicus was discovered by Alan Walker. And again in 1994, Australopithecus ramidus was discovered. In 1995, Australopithecus anamensis was discovered. See, every time if you discovered a new species, it becomes difficult for us to adjust them in the phylogenetic tree. And again, when you discover this new species in the recent times of 85, 94, 1995, again we have to adjust and modify the theory. Because of the discovery of this new species, we have to make a new theory. We call it tree branch theory now. This tree branch theory. So according to this tree branch theory, it is the from Aramidas, Africanus aramidas. From where? Africanus afarensis has come. From where? Africanus anamensis has come. And again, it got divided into three branches. Anamensis got evolved into three types. One went up to P. boycei, one went up to P. robustus, and another up to Homo sapiens. This is the three branch theory. Now let's talk about the culture. Okay, I'll take a short break. I'll give another link in the